Yes, it is. Good morning, Acadiana. It is 7:20. A busy Tuesday morning all across Acadiana. Glad you're spending part of it with us. And of course, Labor Day is upon us. That means more people will be on the road traveling. And if you're traveling, you want to do it responsibly. And speaking on that this morning, Trooper Thomas Gossen joining us somewhere between here and the state line with Mississippi. Good morning, Thomas. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm actually just below Gonzales on I-10, headed to New Orleans for a class. So pulled over to give you a few words.
Well, there you go. And while you're pulled over, and that's something that's important because with the laws on the books, if you're using your cell phone, you're not supposed to be using it with your hands. And nowadays, with the new law that was passed and I think went into effect earlier this month, there is no legal handheld use of a cell phone while you were driving, correct?
Well, no, that's actually not.
Okay.
Not, in school zones where it's posted, yes, that is true. Certain states, that is true. There's a hands-free. For commercial vehicles, yes, you're correct. They must be hands-free. But for us as drivers, we can do it. Now, I don't care to do that too much. It is distracting. Look, 30% driving ability is basically you lose 30% of your driving ability by just talking on the phone. And the example of that is we've all known, we've been talking to somebody, you're in an intense conversation, you miss your turn to the road that you live on, or something very simple that you should have known, that just you're so focused on that inattentiveness while you're driving that you just don't do it. So it is safer by all means to be hands-free, but just talking on the phone is actually a distraction. So I got off the road a little bit so we can focus on what's going on here. So it's hard enough to drive on I-10 in this traffic, because much less being distracted while doing it.
And it's hard enough to drive on Interstate 10 when someone is driving in the left lane and not passing and holding up traffic.
Yeah.
And you've received questions about that. What are you supposed to do when you pass on the left lane? What's allowed, what's not allowed in that left lane? So tell us about some of these questions that you've received and what are the answers?
Yeah, so actually the law is passing vehicle on the left. It's 3273 if you want to look that up on the Louisiana Legislature website. Passing vehicle on the left. So a lot of people get confused about this specific law. Back in the day, when people would read this law, they thought that if I'm on a state highway, I can't turn left. I've got to get onto the shoulder and let everybody pass before I can turn left. And that's not true. That's not the law. The law states that if I'm turning left off of a state highway, off of a highway, I have got to yield the right-of-way to oncoming cars, right? So let's say on a two-lane road, I've got to yield the right-of-way to people that are coming in the opposite direction, but I also must yield to the vehicle that is overtaking me, that's passing me, whenever they are clearly established in that lane. Now, used to be the vehicle passing had to give audible and visual signal. In other words, they had to flash their lights and pump their horn. That specific part of the law was kind of removed off the first part, but in the second part of the law, it says, when overtaking a passing on the right is permitted, the driver of an overtaken vehicle shall give the right of way to someone who's overtaking them by audible signal when they give the signal. So, look, the bottom line is this: if you're passing somebody, pump your horn a little bit. Just toot your horn for a second. Just let them know you might be in that blind spot and they don't see you. So, it's good practice to do that for sure. If you're the person turning left, by all means, clear your obviously your front view, but that's why that left mirror is so important. You have to have that left mirror set properly to be able to see that blind spot, and you got to clear it in both directions. And a lot of people don't understand that. So the person turning left could most likely is going to get cited for this specific law, passing left. They're going to get cited for not yielding to that vehicle that's passing them. So by all means, if you understand that law, great. If you have a child, a young driver, make sure you really hammer that home to clear both directions, being passed and as someone is approaching you from the opposite direction. The class that I'm going to now is a car fit class, and that and I say that to say this. One of the things that we teach in this class, it's really for older drivers, smaller drivers. We all have the the picture of the little old lady driving where she can't even see over the steering wheel, and she's sitting 6 inches from the steering wheel, right? I mean, we can all visualize that picture. Well, there's certain distances we have to stay away from this steering wheel to be safe. But that also means looking at these mirrors the proper way. If your mirrors are set properly, you should be able to look in your rearview mirror on your windshield. You should be able to see a car approaching from the back. As soon as it leaves that mirror, it should be entering the side mirror. As soon as it's getting out of that side mirror, it should be entering your peripheral vision. So at no point should you not see some vehicle that's passing you or coming up from behind you. That's when the mirrors are set correctly. And part of this car fit class is to teach people how to fit properly. Make sure that elderly people, they understand how to operate all the things in the car as far as for moving the mirrors, setting the mirrors, just the little things, adjusting the seat height, forward, back, up, down, if it does that. All these things that we just kind of take for granted when we're younger. What if someone gets a new car and they just don't understand or don't know? My parents are getting a little bit older, and I fuss at my mom for sitting too close to the steering wheel sometimes now, and she used to not, but she does now. So, you want to give her about 12 inches right there. That airbag does come out. It comes back at really, really strong force, 150 to 220 miles an hour, depending on what kind of car you got. So it could be a dangerous situation with that airbag going off. So setting it properly is very important, and having those mirrors set is extremely important.
So the nice little feature that we have in the car where you can adjust your seat, whether manually or electronically, that's not just for comfort. That truly is a safety device in the car to make sure that, A, you're seeing the other vehicles around you properly, and B, that you're not getting yourself injured when the airbag deploys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're very short, you want to really be able to see over the steering wheel a good bit. That steering wheel should not be blocking your view at all. You should be high enough to where you can do that. I've seen some little old people that have the steering wheel cocked all the way up, and they're looking between the dashboard and the steering wheel. That's not safe. That is not safe at all. So, you have there's a lot of blind spots there that they cannot see the road properly, and you don't want to do that. You shouldn't be able to reach you shouldn't be able to stretch for the pedal. Your foot should be on the ground, and you should be reaching those pedals fairly easily. If you have somebody who keeps their foot off the ground the whole time, that causes a little bit of leg fatigue. I know it sounds minor, but that little leg fatigue can cause some different driving habits to form. Also, reaching the steering wheel. I shouldn't be right on the steering wheel, but I shouldn't be so far away that when I'm sitting in my seat, my back against the seat, I should be able to extend my arms straight out, and my wrists should actually touch the steering wheel, not just my fingertips or not just the knuckles. It should be near the wrist. So just little things like that that make this a lot more ergonomic and a lot more efficient as a driver and safer, to be honest.
I want to go back to passing for a second, Thomas, if you don't mind. You mentioned when you pass a car on the left, you're supposed to give the audible honk, and the other car is supposed to yield to you and let you pass around. So say, for example, on a 2-lane road, or even on a 4-lane road like I-10 where you have 2 travel lanes in one direction, if you're overtaking a car on the left-hand side and they speed up to prevent you from overtaking them, could that other car be cited?
Yeah, so let's talk about just the 2-lane roads for now. It works a little bit different on 4 lanes, but let's just talk about 2-lane roads. Let's say you're taking US 90 from Lafayette to Tucson, right? 2-lane road. We all kind of familiar with that road, maybe. But in this law, it basically states that the driver of the vehicle being overtaken by another shall proceed in the same direction, and it also needs to not increase its speed until completely passed by that overtaking vehicle. So that part of the law. So if I witness that and I see a vehicle getting past and all of a sudden it hammers down and it takes off and doesn't let that vehicle pass, I can actually cite that vehicle for breaking that section of the law. Again, look, I encourage people to go read these laws. They're very, we all know bits and pieces of them, but until you read them in black and white and really read the entirety of it, sometimes the law is not what you think. So, again, the Louisiana Legislature website is very. If you do legis.la.gov, you can go straight to it. There's a laws table of contents. Look at the the you want to look at the 32. I know there's a bunch of RS codes, but it's 32 statutes under the 32 codes. So it's the traffic codes.
Yep, revised statute 3273.
Yeah. Yep. So again, I thumb through them pretty often just to kind of see and just kind of, again, it is part of my job, but, just to be familiar with them. And it's amazing some of the things that we take for granted that we learned in driver's ed that we've done, we've forgotten, or it happens so often we don't even think about why we do what we do.
Thomas Gossen joining us on the phone. He's on his way to a car fit class in New Orleans. We talked about passing on the left. There's something I remember seeing as a kid back on University, LA 182, before the turn lane was added. It was 2 lanes. And if someone turned left, on occasion I would see someone pass on the right-hand shoulder to get around. Is that legal?
Oh, yeah. No, that is not legal. Look, think about this. Think about you driving along. Let's say there's 3 cars, a van, an SUV, and a truck. You're in the truck. Let's say the van wants to take a left turn. The SUV decides, well, I can't pass him on the left because he's about to turn, so I'm going to just duck the shoulder and pass him on the shoulder. We're traveling along at, 45, 55 miles an hour. All of a sudden, you've got a van stopped right in front of you as you're doing 55, and now it's you in the van left, and you didn't see that coming because the SUV was blocking the sight of the van's lights, possibly, right? So it's extremely dangerous. You don't want to do that. You can get cited for passing on the shoulder. That is definitely a no-no. I actually had a conversation with a gentleman the other day that did the same thing on US 90 in Scott area. He was from out of state, and I asked him, I said, are you allowed to pass on the shoulder in your state? And he's like, no, sir, I'm not. It's like, well, please don't do it here either. It's not legal here either. So, it does happen. We do see it often. And when you weigh out the benefits of the cost, are you saving 2 seconds to risk a ticket or risk causing a crash where somebody could get injured? It's just not worth it at that point, So, yeah, we definitely thank you for asking about that, because that's another common one I get as well.
And